I want to focus on the aftermath as it comes to gun control, because, of course, whenever there is gun violence, particularly when it's, a mass killing, and especially, when it involves young children, it only makes it a more tragic and more sensational a story. There are the opportunists there that will try to use this environment, this emotional environment, to try to get some new legislation passed. Just like after 9/11, that's when the government seized the opportunity to get the Patriot Act in. They couldn't have done that during normal times, but during the aftermath of that crisis, it was easier given the attitude at the time. And so right now you're going to have a lot of people who are upset, who are angry, who are scared, and the government could take advantage of this and try to say, hey, gun control. Gun control is the answer. And I keep hearing the president, when he came to Newtown, he made his speech, we've got to do something about this. What is the government going to do about it? If somebody just snaps, or there's some lunatic in society that wants to kill people, how are you going to stop it? How are you going to stop things like that from happening? The good news is it is extremely rare. The odds of getting killed in a mass murder are you got a better chance of getting hit by lightning. So you can't really stop it. Even if there were no guns, this individual could have killed people in that school. He could have made a Molotov cocktail and thrown it through the window. He could have set fire to the school. Maybe more kids would have died if he set fire to the school. What if he just took his car and just plowed through a bunch of little kids waiting for the school bus? How many people can you kill with your car? A car is a deadly weapon. People are walking on the side of the street. Sometimes, I drive on the side of the street and I drive past 20 or 30 people riding their bicycles right on the road with me. What if I just plowed into them and kept on going? I can mow them all down. It'd be a mass murder with my car. So you can't stop people from killing people just because it's horrible. There's no law that we really could pass. But, of course, they're going to act like, well, let's just ban guns, or maybe we should ban the assault rifles. First of all, there are hundreds of millions of guns in the country already here. How are you going to ban them? Pot was illegal. Marijuana was illegal. It still is illegal in most states. Did the government succeed in getting rid of marijuana by making it illegal? Did we get rid of cocaine? Did we get rid of heroin? Did we get rid of alcohol during Prohibition when we made it illegal? Making something illegal doesn't make it go away. In many cases, it makes the problem worse. But people don't realize that one of the reasons that schools are targeted by mass killers is because they know there's no guns there. Guns are not allowed in schools. And by the way, up until this Newtown incident, I think the biggest murder at an elementary school was in the UK. And, they have pretty strict gun control rules over there, and they were ahead of us. And I think there was another one that was in Germany where there was a mass killing. In fact, according to John Funn, the biggest mass murder in the U.S. was in 1929. So that's where the record was set. But the fact is that schools are targets. They're easy targets because the killers know that there's no one in the schools that can shoot them. So it's easier. In fact, this is a very interesting statistic. I didn't even know this statistic myself. But it has to do with the shootings in the Batman. That guy with the orange hair, I forget the guy's name. But he went in and he killed, a dozen people at a movie theater that was showing Batman. And you wouldn't believe why he chose that theater, because there were 7 theaters that were showing Batman, the same movie, all within a 20-mile radius of this guy's house. And the one that he chose wasn't even the closest. So why do you think, out of all these 7 theaters, why do you think this guy picked the one that he did in order to do his crime? And the reason he chose that theater was because it was the only theater that banned guns. You see, they have concealed carry in Colorado. And that means you can take your gun into a movie theater unless the movie theater, which is private property, unless he posts a sign that says no guns allowed, in which case you can't bring your gun that you're legally allowed to carry. You can't bring it into the theater. Now, of course, that law didn't stop the mass murderer from going into the theater. He didn't give a damn what the rule was. It was only the law-abiding, upstanding citizens who left their guns at home. The criminal doesn't care. He's a criminal. What does he care what that sign says? In fact, the reason he chose that particular theater is because he knew that law-abiding citizens would respect the sign and would not bring their guns to the theater. He did not want to go to a theater where other people might have also had guns. He didn't want to face an armed audience. He wanted a defenseless audience. That's why he chose that theater. I think 4% of the adults in Colorado have concealed carry permits. If you assume that half of those people would have their gun, I don't know how many people were in that theater, maybe 300. What's 2% of 300? 6 people? If 6 other people were carrying guns, how many people do you think this lunatic would have been able to kill before one of those 6 people shot him? Not nearly as many. In fact, maybe he wouldn't have even gone. Maybe he would have tried to pick some other location where he thought people would have no guns, like a school. You know, maybe if the principal had been armed, maybe she would have been able to shoot that guy. I mean, what are you going to do? You're just going to run? The guy's got a gun. You're just going to reason with him? How about just put a bullet in his head? That would have been a lot better. And then maybe all those little kids wouldn't have been killed. But no one wants to talk about, hey, maybe the principal should have a gun. Instead of taking the guns away, you know, maybe she could have done something. And maybe if that person knew that the principal was armed, or even maybe if there was one armed security guard, I mean, at a school, I don't know. I mean, that might make a lot more sense. But the thing is, of course, the whole thing is rare. But think about this. I read also in this John Fund article, it's great stuff in this article. He points out that policemen and those who are in the public that have a carry permit, right? I've got a carry permit now. I've got a gun. I've got a license to carry it in the state of Connecticut. That people who have carry permits and who legally own firearms, the incidence of those people being involved in a gun crime are exactly the same as police. So a policeman is just as likely to misuse his handgun as a civilian. So why don't we just take the guns away from the police? Hey, wouldn't that be great? Why don't we just have the policemen carrying around bows and arrows, right? Let's make it illegal for them to have guns. Gee, wouldn't that be great for the criminals if they knew they were going to fight a bunch of Indians? You know, how did the Indians, or maybe I should call them Native Americans, how did the bows and arrows do against the cavalry? Not so good. Right? You need guns to equalize it, because no matter what we do, we are not going to succeed in taking guns away from criminals. The only thing that more gun control will do is to make sure that more people are defenseless victims, so that when the criminals who have guns come after them, they won't have to worry about being shot themselves. Here's Eric Holder, Attorney General of the United States, again, trying to take advantage of this. Listen to what he had to say over the weekend. Cut number 11.
We gather too often to talk about these kinds of incidents. We need to discuss who we are as a nation, talk about the freedoms that we have, the rights that we have, and how those might be used in a responsible way.
In other words, we should surrender our rights and surrender our freedoms. It's irresponsible for law-abiding citizens to be able to protect themselves. No. What we should do is remain defenseless. We should give up our liberties in order to get some temporary security or safety, right? We should do exactly the opposite of what the founding fathers encouraged us to do. First of all, this guy didn't even buy these guns. So no matter what kind of laws we had on, they were his mother's guns. He used his mother's gun. So they were legally purchased by his mother. But what law? And even if it was illegal to sell guns, all the guns that are in the country, I mean, you can buy marijuana probably. Most elementary schools or junior, there's a guy there selling pot. Most school kids, in fact, that's where maybe, kids generally have better drug connections than their parents, especially in high school. So, how are you going to stop the guy's 20 years old? How are you going to stop him from buying a gun if that's what he wants to do? And if he didn't use a gun, again, you can make a Molotov cocktail. He can light fire to the building. He can just drive through the parking lot. He probably could have killed as many kids. You know, you have a crowded parking lot when school is out. People are lining up for the bus. Just run your car, you know, over the kids that are there. But, you know, the only choice, the only chance that they had of minimizing the damage was if there were some more guns in the hands of law-abiding people who would have used them defensively. This whole thing is a ruse to try to take away our rights.